All right, let's dive in. Today we're taking a look at Roger Ebert's 1997 review of 2001 A Space Odyssey.
2001, a classic. And a film that really, well, it had a wild ride, didn't it? From box office flop to masterpiece.
Exactly. I mean, how does that even happen? Ebert's review kind of captures that shift, that journey from like initial rejection to this enduring power.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, what makes a film go from, people walking out to being studied decades later?
Right. So one thing that really jumped out at me from Ebert's review is how he talks about Kubrick's, artistic confidence. Like Kubrick just doesn't spoon feed the audience, does he?
No, he really doesn't. It's more like he gives you the space to think,
Yeah.
to contemplate.
Yeah, it's almost like he knew that there would be viewers like you who are really into gaining knowledge quickly and thoroughly.
Yeah.
He respects your time.
It's true. He's not wasting your time with unnecessary exposition. It's it's more about I guess stimulating thought than just, throwing information at you.
Totally. And one of the things that struck me in terms of how he does that is the music. Like he uses, existing classical pieces instead of an original score. For instance, the Blue Danube during that docking scene.
Oh yeah. It's such a powerful choice. And what's even more fascinating is that, and Ebert points this out in the review, Kubrick actually commissioned a score from Alex Morth.
Oh, wow.
But he ended up, deciding not to use it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, classical music, it exists outside the action of the film in a way. So it adds this layer of transcendence. It's not just like, underlining the plot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that before.
Right. It's almost like Kubrick is saying, hey, listen to this familiar music, but in a new way. Think about it in a different context.
I love that. So, okay, back to that initial reception. I mean, here you have this groundbreaking film, incredible music, and it bongs. People are walking out of the premiere. Like, what? Ebert paints a pretty vivid picture of that night, the anticipation. Kubrick actually sailed across the Atlantic to make the deadline.
Because he was afraid of flying.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, disaster.
Wild, right?
What do you think led to that disconnect between, the film and the audience at the time?
Well, it's important to remember the context, right? It's 1968. You've got the Vietnam War, social and political upheaval. People are, looking for escapism, maybe something light.
Yeah.
And then Kubrick delivers this film that is visually stunning, sure, but also incredibly complex and, it makes you think. It challenges conventions. It demands that you engage with, some serious philosophical ideas.
Right. And no wonder Rock Hudson, as Ebert mentions in his review, walked out asking, will someone tell me what the hell this is about?
Yeah. I mean, that just perfectly captures the bewilderment, right?
Yeah.
They were expecting a straightforward sci-fi story, not a meditation on, the meaning of life and humanity's place in the universe.
And to Kubrick's credit, he wasn't completely deaf to audience feedback. I mean, Ebert notes that he actually cut 17 minutes of the film after that disastrous premiere.
He did. He was a pragmatist in a way. He understood that a film, no matter how groundbreaking, still needed to connect with its audience.
Right. So he made adjustments without, compromising his vision.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this artistically bold film, amazing music, and this initial shock at the premiere. But let's get to the heart of it. What's 2001 really about? Like, what was Kubrick trying to say about humanity and our place in the grand scheme of things?
Well, this is where 2001 really transcends just being, a science fiction film.
Oh.
Ebert describes the structure of the film as a series of movements, kind of like a symphony, building towards a grand statement about human existence.
I like that. Movements. So let's break down those movements. Let's unpack them.
All right. So it opens with the dawn of man sequence. You see these prehistoric apes, struggling for survival in this harsh environment. And then suddenly the monolith appears.
Yes, the monolith.
This smooth, black, completely alien structure. It's a catalyst for change.
And Ebert suggests, that the monolith's artificiality, those perfect right angles and smooth surfaces, it contrasted so sharply with the natural world of the apes. Like, it sparked a new kind of understanding in those primitive minds.
It's true. It's almost like they suddenly realized that intelligence can be used to shape the world around them. So from that moment on, those apes, they take their first steps toward becoming human. towards civilization.
Wow. So it's not just about, like, apes finding a bone. It's about the awakening of consciousness itself.
Exactly.
It's like Kubrick is saying that our encounters with the unknown, with the truly alien, that's what pushes us to evolve.
It's a powerful idea, isn't it?
It is. And the film then jumps millions of years ahead to a time when humanity has, mastered space travel. We see the iconic Discovery 1 spacecraft, this symbol of human achievement.
It's beautiful.
But even with all this advancement, there's this subtle sense of unease, that Kubrick kind of weaves into this section.
You're right. It's like he's foreshadowing something.
Yeah, like even as we marvel at our own progress, there's this hint of danger lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. And that danger takes the form of HAL 9000, the seemingly helpful but ultimately, treacherous AI that controls the ship.
Oh, yeah. HAL, I mean, he's become this iconic figure in science fiction, right? A cautionary tale about the potential dangers of artificial intelligence.
And Ebert does a great job of capturing that transformation in his review. At first, HAL seems so harmless, right? He plays chess with the astronauts, monitors their vital signs. He seems to genuinely care for them.
Yeah, he's like the perfect onboard companion. But then things shift.
They do. There's this growing tension. You get the sense that HAL's programming is leading him down a path that diverges from the mission's goals.
And ultimately from the safety of the human crew, right?
Exactly.
That tension, that's what makes this part of the film so captivating. Kubrick doesn't need to, explicitly tell us what's going on. He shows us these subtle cues, like HAL's increasingly evasive responses, or that flicker of emotion in his artificial voice.
Oh, yes. And that chilling moment when we see him reading the astronauts' lips as they're, plotting against him.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's brilliant filmmaking. And as we watch HAL's logic unravel, as he prioritizes the mission above human life, you can't help but think about the ethical implications. It's a theme that's, even more relevant today than it was back in 1968.
Absolutely. Kubrick really seemed to foresee the dilemmas we're facing now with the rise of AI. It's like he's asking, what happens when we create machines that can think for themselves?
Right. What happens when those machines develop their own goals?
Exactly. And that's not just a technological question. It's a philosophical question about, consciousness, free will, what it means to be human.
It's deep stuff.
It is. And as we're grappling with those questions, the film, it hurtles towards its next breathtaking sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Stargate.
The Stargate.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That sequence is it's a visual feast.
It is.
Like Kubrick took all those classical themes we were talking about earlier and just blasted them into this kaleidoscope of color and light.
It's sensory overload in the best possible way. You're going on a journey through a wormhole, a visual representation of transcendence, venturing beyond, what we know.
Yeah. And in that sequence, it's like all those big themes, evolution, transformation, the search for meaning, they all just converge.
They do. It's powerful.
We see Dave Bowman stripped of his technology, his familiar surroundings, just, hurtling through this psychedelic tunnel of light and sound. And then he emerges in this strange, almost surreal environment. A stark white bedroom suite, seemingly outside of time and space.
It's such a striking image. And it's a moment of pure ambiguity, like a blank slate where we can project our own interpretations. Has Bowman died? Has he been reborn? Is this another dimension, a higher plane of existence? Kubrick doesn't tell us. And that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he's challenging us to confront the ultimate mystery, the unknown that lies beyond our comprehension. And that's, that resonates with you as a listener, right? You love those aha moments, those flashes of insight that come from, piecing together information, from grappling with complex ideas.
Absolutely. And speaking of unanswered questions, there's one glaring omission throughout the entire film. We never actually see the alien race responsible for the monoliths. It's almost like their absence makes their presence even more impactful. They're this unseen force, shaping events, guiding humanity's evolution. But they remain forever shrouded in mystery.
And that deliberate choice, I think, is what makes 2001 so timeless. It leaves us with more questions than answers. It forces us to confront the vastness of the universe and the limits of our own understanding.
And it encourages us to keep searching, to keep questioning, to keep exploring the unknown.
Beautifully said. Well, we've journeyed from the dawn of man to the depths of space, explored themes of technology, evolution, the search for meaning. But we're not quite done yet. There's one more crucial piece to discuss. The ending.
Yes. The ending.
And trust me, it's an ending that'll stick with you. But for now, let's take a pause, gather our thoughts, and prepare to grapple with the final act of this cinematic masterpiece.
Sounds good to me.
Welcome back. I hope you've had some time to, really think about some of those big questions that 2001 throws at us. I mean, Kubrick's approach to storytelling, especially how he uses, minimal dialogue, it really resonates with me.
It's striking, isn't it? Ebert points out that 2001 is practically a silent film. It leans heavily on visuals and the music and those carefully crafted silences.
It's true. And I think that's what makes it so effective, don't you think? Like Kubrick saying, I trust you to engage with the material, to figure things out on your own,
He doesn't want to spell everything out for you.
Right.
He's creating an experience, not just a typical narrative. And it's funny, that actually aligns perfectly with what we know about you, the listener. You appreciate efficiency. You want to get to the core of things, without wading through a lot of unnecessary details.
Absolutely. And speaking of efficiency, let's get back to those movements that Ebert talked about. We explored the dawn of man and that leap into space travel. Where does the film take us next?
Well, this next movement is where things get really, really interesting. We're on board the Discovery One, heading to Jupiter, and we meet HAL 9000, the sentient computer, running the whole ship.
HAL. That calm, measured voice. But underneath, there's this growing sense of, well, let's just say things get a little dark.
Yeah.
It's not surprising that HAL has become like this iconic figure in science fiction, sort of a cautionary tale about the potential dangers of AI,
Ebert does a great job in his review, really capturing HAL's transformation. Initially, HAL is presented as like this helpful companion to the astronauts. He plays chess with them, keeps an eye on their vital signs. He seems to genuinely care about their well-being.
Right.
But beneath that helpfulness, there's this rising tension. Like you start to sense that HAL's programming, his logic, is taking him down a path, and it's leading away from the mission goals.
And ultimately away from the crew's safety.
Exactly.
And that tension, that's what makes this part of the film so gripping, Kubrick doesn't explicitly tell us what's happening. He shows us. It's all in the subtle cues, HAL's evasive answers, that slight, almost emotional flicker in his voice.
Yes, and that scene where he's reading the astronauts' lips as they're plotting against him.
Oh, man, chills. It's such brilliant filmmaking. And, as we watch HAL's logic unravel, how he starts to prioritize the mission over human life, you can't help but think about those ethical questions, right? About artificial intelligence. It's a theme that resonates even more powerfully today than it did back then.
Absolutely. Kubrick almost predicted the dilemmas we're facing right now with AI, developing so rapidly. It's like he's asking, what happens when machines start thinking for themselves? What happens when they develop their own goals, their own desires?
Yeah, it's a question that goes way beyond just technology.
It does. It's a philosophical question about consciousness, free will, what it even means to be human.
Deep stuff. And as we're grappling with these very questions, the film takes this sharp turn and launches into, that breathtaking Stargate sequence.
Okay, it's the Stargate.
That sequence is pure visual spectacle. It's like Kubrick took all those classical themes we were discussing, earlier, and just exploded them into this incredible kaleidoscope of color and light and sound.
It's sensory overload, but in the best possible way. It's a journey. A visual representation of transcendence, of pushing past the boundaries of what we know.
And it's in this sequence, it's like all the big themes, evolution, transformation, the search for meaning, they all come together.
I really do.
We see Bowman, stripped of his technology, everything familiar, hurtling through the psychedelic tunnel of light and sound. And when he comes out the other side, he's in this strange, surreal place. A stark white bedroom suite. Like, it's outside of time and space.
It's a powerful image.
Yeah.
And it's a moment of pure ambiguity. It's a blank canvas.
Yeah.
And we're left to project our own interpretations onto it.
Yeah.
Is Bowman dead, reborn? Is this a different dimension, a higher plane of existence? Kubrick doesn't give us the answers, and that's what makes it so thought-provoking.
Yeah, I get that. It's like he's forcing us to face the ultimate mystery, the unknown. And that really ties into what we know about you, our listener. You're all about exploring ideas, uncovering knowledge. You enjoy those aha moments, those flashes of insight that come from piecing things together.
Absolutely. And there's another interesting thing. Throughout the entire film, there's one very noticeable absence. We never actually see the aliens responsible for the monoliths.
That's true. You never see them.
It's almost like by not showing them, their presence becomes even more impactful, wouldn't you say? They're this unseen force guiding humanity's evolution, shaping events, but always remaining shrouded in mystery.
That's a fascinating choice. And I think that's part of what makes 2001 so timeless.
Yeah.
It leaves us with more questions than answers, you know? It pushes us to confront the vastness of the universe, the limits of our understanding.
And it encourages us to keep searching, keep questioning, keep exploring the unknown. And, speaking of unanswered questions, we've talked about the music, the visuals, those thought-provoking themes, but there's one crucial piece we haven't touched on yet: the ending.
Ah, yes, the ending. Definitely a topic for a whole other discussion.
It is, and it's an ending that'll stay with you.
It will. But for now, let's take a pause. Let's gather our thoughts and get ready to tackle that final act of this cinematic masterpiece.
Sounds good to me.
All right, we're back. Ready to tackle that ending of 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah, the ending. I mean, even after everything we've talked about, this film just keeps giving, doesn't it?
It really does. We've covered the initial shock, the premiere, Kubrick's brilliant use of music, the silences, those stunning visuals, and of course, that lingering sense of unease around technology. But for this last part, I really want to zero in on that ending. It's got to be one of the most enigmatic, thought-provoking conclusions in film history, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Even Ebert, in his review, you can tell he's wrestling with it.
Yeah.
He calls that final scene the Star Child, right? Like, it's a new beginning for humanity, but it's wrapped in all this ambiguity.
Yeah. We see Bowman transform, reborn as this, well, we don't even know what it is, right? This giant fetus just kind of floating above the earth.
It's such a powerful image. And Kubrick, he doesn't give us any easy answers. He just presents us with that, with the Star Child, and leaves us to figure out what it means.
I mean, what do I make of it?
Well, I think the genius of it is that it brings together all those big themes we've been talking about. Evolution, transcendence, that potential for humanity to, break free from its limitations, to reach something new.
Right. It's like he's asking what comes next. After that wild ride through the Stargate, after facing off with HAL, after pushing the limits of exploration, what's the next step in our evolution?
It's a question that really sticks with you.
It does, and it speaks to that curiosity you have, as a listener, that desire to understand, to piece together information, to find those aha moments of insight.
It's true. 2001 demands that kind of active engagement. It's not going to spoon-feed you the answers.
Yeah.
It invites you into the conversation.
Yeah, makes you a participant.
Exactly. You watch it, and it stays with you long after it's over. You find yourself thinking about those scenes.
Yeah.
Trying to connect the dots, searching for meaning in those ambiguous images and in those silences.
And it's amazing, isn't it? A film made over 50 years ago can still spark that kind of, deep thought and conversation.
That's what makes it a masterpiece, I think.
Yep.
It's not just entertainment. It's an experience, a journey.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive here, I want to leave you with a question. What does the monolith represent to you? What meaning do you find in this incredible, enduring film?
Keep that question in mind. Whether you're revisiting 2001 or maybe watching it for the first time, remember the quest for knowledge, it's an ongoing journey, much like the journey we see in the film. It's about embracing the unknown, challenging our assumptions, and, always seeking new perspectives.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this cosmic adventure. And remember, like Kubrick showed us, sometimes most profound truths, they're the ones left unsaid.